First, no one is illegal. That term is derogatory now because it dehumanizes people. You can say any other forms of maybe coming in without regulations or so forth, but the use of illegal is disrespectful.
Not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
That is very offensive for me to see continuing to happen, is continuing to message this anti-immigrant agenda.
First of all, no one on this panel is anti-immigrant. We're law enforcement officers enforcing law that you all enacted. So to sit there and say that we're anti-immigrant is just wrong. We are enforcing laws. If you think it's okay to enter this country legally and they shouldn't be arrested, that's just wrong. The laws clearly state enter the country legally.
As time goes on, 1,000 deportations on average a day. Won't you at least consider unilaterally freezing deportations for the parents of deferred action kids?
Yeah. Here's the problem that I have, Jose, and I've said this consistently. My job in the executive branch is supposed to be to carry out the laws that are passed.
I think it's important to really make sure that the jingoistic, bigoted testimony of Mr. Homan is called out as nearly completely untrue, as being an outrage. So making sure that I am...
Mr. Chairman...
No, this is my 5 minutes.
Well, what did I say was inaccurate?
Excuse me. Okay, I'm not asking a question.
If I can respond to the earlier remark from Wasserman Schultz, I forgot more about this issue than you ever know. So if you say my testimony is inaccurate, it's wrong. Everything I said here is accurate. If you want to go toe-to-toe, I'm here. I'm here in my own time to speak to the American people about what's false and what's fact.
I'm sure happy to go toe-to-toe with you, Mr. Homan.
Well, I'm here.
That any day.
But you got to let me respond to your question rather than dropping a bomb and running away.
The Obama administration will ask Congress today for at least $2 billion. The money would help deal with the growing immigrant crisis along the border with Mexico. Since October, more than 52,000 kids have been caught crossing into this country. They came here illegally and on their own. The children are mostly from Central America. Detention centers are overwhelmed by the surge. Some of those kids have no choice but to sleep on floors. Along with the new funding, the White House also wants the authority to fast-track deportations and to enforce tougher penalties against human traffickers.
Mr. Albans, would you send your child to FRCs?
Again, I think we're missing the point. These individuals are there because they have broken a law. There has to be a process.
They have broken a law only as deemed so by the president with his...
No, ma'am. They're there for violation of Title VIII of the Immigration of the U.S. and Nationality Act.
My understanding is that under zero tolerance, these are no longer civil proceedings, but in fact were criminal proceedings.
They were criminal proceedings when the Border Patrol prosecuted them, but at the conclusion of that process, once the individual came into ICE custody, they would go through administrative proceedings.
I'm confused.
Don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. We don't even know how many of these kids don't make it and may have been waylaid into sex trafficking or killed because they fell off a train. We have no way of tracking that.
I do want to just say again, if you cross in between the ports of entry,
I know what your philosophy is. I'm out of time.
It's not a philosophy. It's a law Congress passed. So we should encourage people to go to the port.
In this last year, the border has been flooded with unaccompanied child migrants coming from Mexico and increasingly from Central America. This has created huge backlogs of kids that need to be cared for, and it's raising questions of exactly what the U.S. should do with all these children. The White House says that smugglers in Central America are spreading misinformation, telling families that if a child arrives in the United States, the government here must allow the child to stay. Sometimes children are allowed to stay, but there's no guarantee. President Obama is proposing new powers that would give the U.S. government more discretion for returning these unaccompanied minors to their home countries, hoping that if children are sent back quickly, this will deter more people from beginning their dangerous journeys north. The president is also proposing a so-called border security surge of increased immigration enforcement. To pay for it all, the president is asking Congress for $2 billion.
So when there was a surge in FY14 and FY15 on the border, Congress was quick to give all the money we needed to build detention facilities, get transportation contracts. We reprogrammed money out of the majority of the years she was president. That was fine. Under Obama administration, FY12, we removed 409,000 people, half of what was removed last year. There was no hearings on that.
I'll just say that I didn't like it under the Obama administration either. In fact,
well, be honest with the American people. You can't point out faults in the Trump administration when it happened under the Obama administration. That's dishonesty. It's pathetic and it's sad. Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
No.
Of course not. Look. You want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He's going to get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair's authority. The
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Do you see any parallels here? How different is what we're seeing today from these images?
In many ways, and I think I don't know what image you're using, but I released some of those photos because it was kept very quiet under the Obama administration. You can separate a child if that person, the adult, is not the real parent or the custodian, because sometimes we see situations where they'll bring a child because they know of the policy that we have over here with children, or at least what we used to have.
Children without soap, children in filth, conditions that none of us would ever countenance with our own children. Well, any child in our care is our children.
I'm extremely frustrated.
Mr. Homan, I'm not calling on you, sir.
Of course not.
This is my time.
This isn't about transparency.
You're not at the border.
This is ridiculous.
You're not at the border right now. You're in a hearing room. It's my time.
I'm the only one in this room that stood in back of a tractor trailer surrounded by 19 dead aliens, including a 5-year-old little boy that suffocated in death in his father's arms. I was there, and I saw it, and I smelled it, and it's terrible. We don't close the loopholes, more women will be raped, more children will die, but it's like no one's listening.
But we also expanded family detention, which was, I freely admit, controversial.
And you got a lot of heat for it.
We got a lot of heat for it. There were just 95 beds out of a total of 34,000 equipped to handle families. We expanded that capability. I will freely admit that I made a big deal out of it so that people could see what we were doing.
What does that mean when a child is sitting in their own feces? None of us would have our children in that position. They are human beings.
Anyone who took the walk that we took around this neighborhood would not think you're in a wealthy nation. You would think that you were in a third world country, a community that does not even have decent quality grocery stores where moms can buy quality food for their kids.
I'm getting to the priorities that you have to establish for deportations. So visa overstayers are not legally present in our country. So would that fit under your term illegally present persons?
These disturbing leaked images apparently show undocumented children cramped inside a Border Patrol holding cell, sleeping on the floor under foil blankets. U.S. officials say basic necessities such as food and showers are scarce.
Beginning on Tuesday, we started seeing families dropped off, including, children most under the age of 5, some as young as 3 to 6 months old.
Senior Obama administration officials tell CNN these children are trying to cross the southwest border in droves, trekking all the way from Central American countries such as Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Now, with tens of thousands pouring into the U.S., they are overwhelming American facilities, particularly in Texas. The U.S. says now 3 military bases will handle some of the overflow. Over the last week, buses of immigrant family groups arrived in Arizona in record numbers. About 1,000 were children. Processing facilities were at capacity, so the federal government was forced to find other options for the immigrants, a move that's outraged Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. She released a statement saying DHS was transporting, quote, thousands of illegal aliens and releasing them at bus stations in Tucson and Phoenix.
Mr. Holman, your name is on this. Is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy?
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their...
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
I don't think everybody understands what's actually happening down here. You know, you have a lot of these kids that are coming here and put through terrible, terrible situations by their parents. They are brought over in extremely dangerous conditions in an extremely dangerous terrain. And all this can be avoided if they just go through the port of entry. There would be no crime committed by them and they wouldn't get separated. Why they don't do this is beyond me. Just like anyone else, they're subject to arrest. And we all know when you get arrested, you don't get to stay with your family. It's just the sad reality of life. We've had this situation going on for 4 years now. And for some reason, we haven't fixed it. I don't think you can necessarily blame it on one administration or the other. It started under one and it's continuing under another. It hasn't been fixed and it needs to be fixed.